This is The Countdown, discussing tomorrow's news today as our top guests tackle the issues that matter with a sharp take on every story. And now, here are your hosts, Andrew Weeks and Onyx Duncan.
Andrew, speaking to us on mute. Good morning, viewers. Good morning, listeners. Everybody
Yes,
locked
morning.
into the countdown.
Good morning, viewers. Good morning. My apologies for that mic mute. But good morning. It is Sunday. It is the 9th of February. It's another day. It's another, Sunday morning. Bright and shining out there.
Yep.
But,
A little bit of drizzles now and again.
yeah, a little bit of drizzle now and again. But we're talking with the Shadow Minister of Education, Coretta McDonald, Honorable Member of Parliament, and let's see what we're talking about. Take a look at this as we get the show on the ball this morning.
Let's go to the maths and English story, sir. And I want to be very careful here because I know that sensible people are watching me. And we should never do what you did and what we did. The PPPC will not rest until 100% of our children pass mathematics and pass English. We will not rest. But listen to this, Mr. Speaker.
Education, I must say again, is in serious trouble. Sir, I want to say to us that for the millions that would have been spent in education, we have a whole lot of wastage. Wrong mathematical tables, wrong information in our books. Sir, we stand here and we don't even know whether to say she is a preposition or she is a pronoun. But sir, I want to say that we still have these two books that are available so that the honorable member would be able to use them. Sir, in closing, I must say, education is in a mess. Education is in a mess. 75 days our teachers stood out there with nothing tangible to hold on to. Mr. Speaker, victimization is at every level. Mr. Speaker, I must say to all of us, we cannot forget the stress that the PPP government put us through. Let's talk about what happened in the 2000s. The number of deaths. Sir, we must remember the Henry Boys, Ronald Water. We must remember Mr. Boston from Essequibo. But sir, you know what this government is all about? This is the government of the appeals. They appeal the cutting of the salaries for the nurses in Linden. They have appealed the amount given to the Quindon Bacchus family. They have even gone to appeal, sir, the teacher's case, and that they have lost it. Sir, I want to say to you, and I want to say to all of us here, this budget, sir, the people of Guyana have had almost 5 years to see what happens when the People's Progressive Party is in power. They have come to recognize, sir, that the crumbs doesn't taste the same way as the loaf. Sir, this is characterized, the People's Progressive Party, their leadership has been characterized as a group with a lack of vision, a lack of planning, and above all, a lack of care for the people of this country.
That's Coretta McDonald there for you, giving her take on the budget debate. And as you know, the budget has been passed.
$1.3 million. Trillion dollars. Sorry.
$1 trillion. And in the room, in the green room, coming out right out, is Coretta McDonald. Good morning, Coretta. Welcome to the program.
Hi
Happy
there.
New Year.
Good morning. Happy New Year to you. Good morning to you. And good morning to my very, very good, long lost friend. Comrade Onyx Duncan. It's good to be here. Sunday is a bit of a rush day. Andrew, you would know Saturday, I worship on Saturday, so Sunday is the
Yes.
day when you do everything. But I'm still happy that I'm here and that I can share with the nation and I can share uninterrupted. I can sit quietly and share with you and the nation relevant information without being abused, over abused, under abused, above abuse, and all the abuses you can think about when you stand there in Parliament, which is allowed by the Speaker.
Exactly.
I am sure you've had the experience, but the general public would not have the experience of what transpired in those hollowed walls there, which is supposed to be an entity of the highest level of decorum. But you know what? It has gone to the dogs. Like what people would say, the Parliament has now gone to the dogs.
Yeah. I got you. It has gone to the dogs, and we are not dogs, so we are human beings. Maybe they on the other sides are dogs. But, Coretta, we had the budget debate, we had the budget estimate, the budget has been passed. Give us your summation on your thought on the consideration of the estimate. There are a number of things that came out there, but give us your summation on how you think that whole estimate of the budget for the Ministry of Education went down in your own view.
Well,
To the
like I said in my budget presentation, the budget before we had 1.1 trillion dollars. That 1.1 trillion dollars, when you had the sum that was allocated to education, in that last budget, we have seen even more, I don't want to say trash, but we have seen coming out of that budget education, the people who were supposed to benefit, the children who were supposed to benefit, the teachers who were supposed to benefit, the nation who was supposed to benefit as a whole. They have not done so. Coming out of last year's budget, we saw more thefts at school, and education is responsible, along with the Ministry of Local Government. They're responsible for paying the security companies, and we have had more theft in our schools than ever before. We have seen coming out of last year lower passes in math and English. With all the billions that would have been allocated, we have seen coming out of this school feeding program a whole lot of nonsense. You have a school feeding program and the children are given Solara and a cool down in a plastic bag. You're seeing the children being given, as they describe it, hot dog with a stink sausage. Not a meal that you can consider as a balanced diet. Now, we know when the coalition did the hot meal, the breakfast, while the coalition did not have the scope to spread their wings to ensure that every region was able to benefit, they started off with 5 regions. And in those 5 regions, the children had then, or our learners had then, what is considered a balanced diet. You had fruits, you had porridge, you had toast bread, you had roti being given to them, you had cassava bread in areas where the children, that's what they're accustomed to. And so our nation's children were satisfied, our parents were satisfied. What have we seen coming out of the $1.1 trillion budget? A whole lot of nonsense. Our children eating the breakfast that is provided, and they start vomiting after. We saw the mildew bread. We saw so many things happening, and now we're having a $1.3 trillion budget where we have $175 billion that has been allocated to the education sector. Well, what we will have here is more and more of what the speaker has prevented us from saying, more and more corruption, more and more of the C word, the word that begins with C and end with S, or end with N or S in some instances, if we want to magnify it. And that's what we'll see coming out here again. We have seen
Co and Ruption, the two of them.
Cor and his brother Ruption.
Yeah. And we're seeing more of the same.
We'll see more of the same, much more.
Onyx, over to you.
MP, looking at the budgetary allocations, I've noted some points here that I wanted to ask in regards to the education policies that are instilled into the system right now. What are the current challenges? What do you see as the biggest challenge currently facing our education system, and how do you plan, or how do we plan to address this as we want to, or we need to go into government to change this dilemma that is happening in the education ministry?
The first problem that we've got to tackle is the square pegs that we have in round holes. That's the first one that we have to tackle, where you have education officers who are not appointed based on merit, but they're selected. We just
Yes.
saw last week the CEO handpicking educators who, in his mind, he feels, in his opinion, that they are capable to become school inspectors. And the CEO said it in his own words that he has handpicked them. And so as long as you're going to go out there in a sector as important as education and you're going to handpick persons, then you understand what we're going to have, because that in itself is favoritism. And so
Yeah.
once persons are favored, then they will do the things that the master wants them to do. And of course, I shouldn't while we demand better from the person who is sitting in the chair as the chief education officer, it's nothing strange that he is doing, because don't forget, he himself was handpicked. There was no vacancy notice placed out there for the vacancy of chief education officer. There was no shortlisting. There was no interviews being done. So he himself was handpicked, and maybe he feels that that's the way to go. So the first nut that we have to crack is that of having square pegs in round hole. The second nut that we have to crack is that of the CPC training of our teachers. You cannot expect to pay lecturers $7,000, $1,000, and $1,200 and expect them to give of their best. And that's the part-time lecturers. You can't expect to pay the full-time lecturers peanuts and expect to get the best from them. You cannot expect to have a college that is the administration is highly politicized, and then you will get the best coming from our lecturers. And so that's the second area that we have to tackle. The other area that we have to tackle is that of the bids that are always those bids that going there, where you have selection again being done. The engineering department, you have persons there who are officers, and they're also bidding on the other names like we're having right now. I just saw breaking news there with the minister Indar, Deodat Indar. His name is calling again. It is alleged that he is a director of the company, and they're also bidding, and he's paying. I saw a staff saying he pays us, and he would come into the company, he would come in there, and he would cuss us out and all kind of thing. So these are the issues that we have got to be able to tackle if we want education in particular to function the way it ought to function. Don't forget, we also have to tackle the way our exams are being done. Grade 6 exams, grade 9 exams. We have to be able to structure our curriculum in such a way that it prepares our learners for the world of work.
Before you move on, MP, I was getting to the curriculum, because I know curriculum is a big thing right now. We've seen that the Minister of Education came in and changed the entire curriculum, so now it affects all students. How does that, challenge affect the student, and in which way can we curb that?
Now, let me take us a few years back. During the PNC's stint in office, you would remember that we had their primary nursery schools. Let me say, first of all, the PNC under Lyndon Forbes Sampson Burnham instituted free education from nursery to university. Free education. Yeah. In that package, we had their nursery, primary, community high schools, and secondary schools. Of course, we had the super secondary schools too. In that vision, it was where the minister, the prime minister and executive president, and also he served as minister of education at one time. It was there that he recognized that all children are not able to learn at the same pace. We don't all learn at the same pace. Some are slow learners, and that is why that provision was made for them. So those who are not there academically, they could have gone to a school which enables them to learn a trade by using their hands, so that when they would have graduated from that school, they can go out there to do plumbing, masonry, carpentry, joinery. They can become a mechanic. That was the vision, to ensure that all of our people are inclusive in education and they can go out there and become productive citizens. When the PPP came into office, we saw the disbanding of all of the community high schools. And so children are now forced, or they were forced then and continues to be forced now, to paddle the canoe even when they don't know how to paddle. Yeah. And it's because of that we're having all of the social ills that we're having in our schools now. You check the dropout rates, it's alarming. You check how many learners are leaving school at primary level and at the secondary level. By the time they get into first form or second form, or what we call grade 7 and 8 now, they're out of school. And it's because they cannot cope with the level of work that is being done there, because it's way above their heads. The second thing that we have to look at is there's a curriculum and a syllabus or a syllabi that you have to follow. And the teachers have got to ensure that they follow that to the letter T. Hence, you be charged for not following ministry's policy. Now, in your classrooms, you have 25, 29, 30, 35 learners in a class with one teacher. And everybody learning at their own pace. But the teacher's got to ensure that she teaches so that she is not cited for going against the ministry's policies. And that's where our problem is, where we don't cater for the learners who are slow developers. Everybody in Priya's mind and in the PPP's mind are at the same pace, so we work at the same level.
Coretta, we seem to be in this situation year after year, election after elections. We're having multiple problems, multiplied problems. But I want to ask you a question here. Is there a model that you have seen globally that can solve this problem in our education system, that can put it on par with the rest of the world, that would put teachers in the right position, that will put students in the right position, that could make this whole nightmare go away?
Look, we have looked at what happens with education in Switzerland. We have looked at what happens with education in the United States, in Canada, in China, in Japan, and that's just to name a few. And if we were to come closer home, let's look at what happens in Jamaica, in the Bahamas, in Belize, in South America. And if we were to look at those education policies and we were to mirror or to tweet to suit our level, then we are going to be not only not ringing bells, but we're going to press a switch and have the sound of a bell coming forth. But what the PPP have decided is that they know all, they know everything, and all in their minds what they are bent on doing is oppressing the ordinary man and his or her child or children. But they are there with their children because, of course, the ordinary man can't send his child to the US to study. They can't send their children to Canada. As a matter of fact, the opportunity will not even be there to present itself for them to have a scholarship to go there, much more to be able to facilitate payments and all of that for tuition fees. But this government, again, is all about family, friends, and the favorites. And in their minds, and this is how they see it, as long as we keep you oppressed, then we'll be able to control you. As long as we keep you uneducated, we are able to control you, so that we can spread the mass propaganda out there. And you believe what we are saying because you cannot think critically for yourself. And that's the mantra of the PPP.
I just want to go for the record that maybe you had have sat with the minister and the Minister of Education and put forward these plans. The minister, these are ways that we could better the education system with the GTU and the ministry working hand in hand to uplift, to modernize, to make teaching in the country more, easier, make lives of teachers better, make the system of education better. That you would have sat with them in a room, lock up, and put forward these proposals, and the government said, "Well, hey, we can try this, we can try that." Has that happened?
Before I answer that question, let me say to you, if we check the track records of the PPP from 1992 to 2015, you'll see the performance of our learners. If you were to check the performance of the PNC before 1992, you'll see the performance of our learners. If you were to check the track record of the APNU AFC between 2015 and 2020, you're going to see the performance of our students, especially in the areas of math and English. You'll see the performance. And you check now the performance of our students in math and English at both CSEC and grade 6 level, and you'll see the performance. It speaks for itself. In between 2015 and 2020, we had 46% passes. Under the PPP, it's 24 or 26 in math and English over the years. Now, this here is telling you that something is wrong somewhere. If one government who administrated between a 5 years or less than 5 years period could have caused our results in math and English, our percentage in math and English, to go to a level of 46%, and then as soon as they demit office, our percentage has gone way down, halfway below what it was, then I think that should answer the question that you're asking me. But let me say, the GTU has been there for over 140 years in existence. We've always been giving the advice to our counterparts because we see the Ministry of Education as partners with us. We represent the interest of our teachers primarily, but of course our learners is they're important to us. And we have always ensured that our teachers, as long as you're present in school, that you do what you have to do. And so when we engage the Ministry of Education, we engage the ministry with one notion in mind, that our education sector is better. But you know what? As of recent, from 2020 to now, whenever the GTU put forward initiatives there, it is not taken as serious. Simply because
it's coming from you.
It is coming from Coretta McDonald, or it is initiated by the union where Coretta McDonald plays a major part. So they can't take any initiative coming from the opposition. That's how they see it. That's how they see it. And I find it very silly. And that is why the Minister of Education could stand there in Parliament to say, we will not rest. She knows why they will not rest. They can't rest because of one, the 20 lives that those screams will continue to be in the ears of the minister and the rest of them in the PPP. The 20 lives that were lost at Madia because of negligence on the part of the PPP's government. I don't care how much they talk about, oh, recommendations were made and recommendations were made. What did you do with those recommendations? You did absolutely nothing. So that is why they will not rest. She didn't say the entire script. She didn't read the entire script, but that is why they will not rest. Math and English will continue to be, the percentage pass will continue to be low because the Ministry of Education, they just don't know what to do. And since they don't know what to do, the good book, the Bible says, if you ask, it shall be given unto you. Seek and you will find. Knock and it will be open, but they don't intend to do that. They are bent on keeping this nation uneducated so that they can take you through the path that they want to take you.
Coretta, we are having also a number of incomplete schools, school in repairs, teachers not being paid based on their qualifications. We're having teachers that they're bringing onto the system that are not trained. They are not qualified to teach, some of them. We have teachers who are dealing with issues in school that they themselves don't know how to deal with, pertaining to special education as one, don't know how to deal with it, and they're causing more problems and doing more harm than good. And these are issues that the ministry is supposed to be looking at, but it is not looking at it because there are a number of issues. Expound a little bit more on that for me, to the public, so we can understand what are some of the faults that we continue to fail in those areas.
Let me say to you, in one of the indicators coming out of the education ministry's budget and the estimates, we saw there the ministry saying that the teacher to student ratio, or teacher to pupil ratio, or teacher to learners ratio is 16 to 1, 16 learners to 1 teacher. While that sounds good on paper, that is an overall, when you look at all the schools in Guyana and the learners, but what is actually happening on the ground is far from the truth. And rather than the minister saying to us in parliament there that, look, we know that this is an overall, she went on there to expound that this is what, and this is what, and this is what it is. But 16 to 1 is not reality. And rather than her saying, look, we're going to work to ensure that this becomes a reality, she went on to talk about, oh, and people don't know, in her usual arrogant way, which, maybe she feels that gets her somewhere. But people, I'm happy that she noted that we have sensible persons who are listening. And so the teachers who are listening there, they know exactly what is happening. Let me give you some figures. At St. Winifred's Secondary School, right there in Georgetown in Kitty, we have in the grades 9 classes, you have 30 students to 1 teacher. In the grade 7 classes, you have 27 to 1 teacher. Now, if you are to have 30 to 1, then how is a teacher able to man a class and to be effective with 30 students to 1 teacher when all of these learners are learning at their own paces? At Yarokita Nursery, which is at Yarokita Nursery, you have in the year 1s, you have 42 learners, and these are our babies. 42 learners to 2 teachers. You divide 42 by 2 and you will see what we get, 21 to 1. How do we man 21 babies? How does 1 teacher man 21 babies? When you have some who are not potty trained, some who are missing home and they're crying, some who are active, they're going to be running around the class, some who will just sit there how is a teacher effectively able to man a class of 21 babies all by herself? In the year 2 classes, you have 35. And so rather than education looking to deal with these issues and to ensure that we have the maximum amount, well, not the maximum, because GTU would have signed an agreement with the Ministry of Education where we talk about 15 and 10 and this special in the schools, the special schools like the David Rose school. David Rose, they don't say handicap now, special. I think it's in the David Rose special needs school, where we have children who are differently abled. You cannot have 1 teacher man in a class of 15 and 20. It will not work. No. And so this is what education is supposed to be addressing. We have schools in Port Kaituma. Port Kaituma Primary, you've got 30 to 1. You have some of the annex there at Port Kaituma where you have 150 learners with 2 teachers. Now, I don't know how they're able to manage there. You have Peter and Paul Primary, where the grades 1 and 2, you have 34 to 1 teachers. And that's an all age school. You have the primary top there. And so in the grade 7, 8, and 9 classes, it's 25 to 1. Now, these are the issues that education is supposed to be dealing with. We're supposed to work to make sure that those numbers drop and that we have a teacher who can man a teacher to every class. Now, many of those numbers that I've called there, the classes are supposed to be divided in 2 and 3, and in some instances, 4. But what do we have? We have an education sector where you feel that large numbers, of course, we know that and you know that the PPP believe in mass numbers. They believe in large numbers. They don't believe in effective communication, in effective learning. They believe in large numbers. And so when they go out there and they present, they see those large numbers, they feel good about it. But what is being done? More harm than good to our children. But to answer you with regards to what you talk about, the I lost my train of thought. Just remind me quickly, please.
Yes, in terms of, if it is working, these incomplete schools,
Right.
these yes.
Yes. So the incomplete schools, that's another issue by itself. And we have many schools across this country. What this ministry is bent on doing. You see, the thing is, let me say this. The thing is, for education to be effective, you have to ensure you touch all of the corners. And the corners are classrooms and schools that are conducive to learning. Classrooms and schools that have enough teachers, who you might not have all of them fully qualified based on where they're coming from, because in some of our interior locations you have the option of being a teacher, being a pork knocker, or being a policeman or woman, or maybe nursing if that is so available there, or being a housewife or a farmer. That is what is available in some of these locations. And so when we have our students leaving schools with 5 subjects, 6 subjects, in some cases 3 subjects, because of the shortage of teachers in those areas, they're employed as a teacher. What we're supposed to do is to work with them to ensure that we bring them up to the level that we want them to be. That is scarce in some areas. While we hear the talks about, we're having CPC centers and here and there and all over the place, you go there and check for yourself. How many of them are having connectivity, full connectivity to 1, the internet, 2, electricity? So don't bother with all this talks about, they're having internet hubs and internet hubs. How many of them are functioning effectively? And to be able to man the problem of inefficiency in education, we need to ensure that we have proper schools, not schools that are dry weather schools like we have. We need to have teachers to man those schools, and the schools themselves must be conducive to learning. We cannot have learners in a building where it's open. We cannot have learners in a building where the seating arrangement is not proper. The chairs are not properly made, and that's because the PPP believe in inferiority. They go out there, mass production, any older thing, because they want to spend to have the more monies to put in their pockets and in the pockets of their friends and their families. So you don't have persons manning what is happening effectively to ensure that what we want to have, furniture, proper buildings, the compounds are well kept, we have security there, and lighting and ventilation and all of that. We don't have that happening in many of our schools, even in Georgetown as we speak. And so those are some of the factors that affect learning in and across this country. And when you expect the Ministry of Education is supposed to be zeroing in on that, no, they don't do that. What they're zeroing on is constructing more buildings. That's the theme in education right now, constructing more buildings. We have many, many schools. Just the other day, we had Dolphin Secondary with the pigeons. And then that caused school to have been closed for an entire week because the teachers protested on one day, and then for the rest of the week, you had no schools and no school. And the minister was proud to go there to engage the teachers and the parents. Rather than fixing the problem, we had 3 weeks of Christmas vacation. We had 8 weeks of the August vacation, but no emphasis was placed there. Where the emphasis is being placed on is constructing new schools. I must say, we have no difficulty with schools being built in other areas. But one question, what was the study that was done to ensure that when we put a building here, we have enough learners to fill this building that we're putting there? We have enough teachers to teach there. No kind of survey is being done, but if you were to go and do rehabilitative work on some of our schools that we have, you're not going to get the kind of drawback that you're supposed to get. So you go out there and you concentrate on constructing more schools. We talk about construction of schools. We have Bamia. That has been there for the last 4 years, and it's still not yet completed. We have Christchurch Secondary, which is behind the due date. We had the North Rumvelt Multilateral School, which has been completed, much to the dissatisfaction of the teachers because they still have water woes, they still have issues with plumbing, they still have issues with electrical works, there are cracks in the building. But this is what this government is all about. Oh, we construct a new school here, and what did the coalition do, and what did you do? You did not build any school. But the nation must understand that when the coalition got into office in 2015, the amount of work that you had to do on some of the schools that were there for the last 23 years that the PPP has been in office. And let me make this point before I go on. For the PPP, their stint of office began in 2020. They don't talk about what happened prior to 2015 and back there. Their stint of office began in 2020. So all they can talk about is what they would have done over the last 4 years. But what did they do over the 23 years that they were in office? When the coalition came into office in 2015, you remember? We had to go and fix Cato Secondary School. You remember that? Cato Secondary School. We had to fix all these schools that were there in deplorable conditions. We had to pay all the debts that was incurred by the PPP. Now, when you would have done that, all of that you had to cope with. Plus, you had to cope with ensuring that workers are satisfied in this country, that a decent living or a decent way of life is being had by citizens. Then I don't understand how the PPP could compare 4.5 years with 23 years and the 5 years that they're having now. I don't understand how they can compare that. And then they talk about you did not build. You couldn't build even a secondary school. No, the coalition could not build secondary schools because we had too much work to do to rehabilitate all those secondary schools that you left there. The primary schools and nursery schools that were built by the coalition, the PPP are enjoying it. And we can walk this country and identify all of those primary schools and secondary school and nursery schools that were built by the coalition government. But here it is. Education is not about educating our people and making our children productive citizens for future. Education for the government of Guyana and education for Priya Manik Chand is building new schools, putting out a feeding program there that is more than disastrous, issuing grants to parents, and the grants that they issue to parents, no accountability is being had for those grants. So you don't know whether if a name is put there that child is exactly a child at that school, and the amount of monies that they spend to go to issue those grants, all the big fanfare that they have to go and issue those grants. Now, issuing grants to parents is a good thing. We said before that we did not issue, we took the $10,000 because we were ready to present to our nation or to our learners bicycle, boats, books, breakfast, buses. The PPP came into office and what did they do? Abandon the buses, abandon the boats. In many instances, learners cannot have breakfast. And if they have the breakfast, we see what the breakfast is all about. And so again, there is little or absolutely no vision when it comes to education with regards to the PPP.
One other question before Onyx. What is the update with the All Saints Primary School, the All Saints School? Has it been repaired? Has it been completed? What's going on with that?
Well, at All Saints Primary, I know just about 2 weeks ago, I think it was, there were lots of complaints coming out of that school where work is being done while school is in session. And this is how the PPP operate, you know. Work is being done while school is in session. So the teachers are there, the learners are there, and they have to inhale paint. They have to hear the noise of carpenters nailing. And it's not at All Saints alone. We're having that was happening at one of the school, 2 or 3 of the schools on the Essequibo coast, CV Nunes Primary in particular. We were having the complaints coming from the teachers and the parents at that school. So this is what the PPP do. They are all about a big show. And so could you imagine in this century, in the 21st century, when we are having $1 trillion budgets, that we are still faced with schools not having running water? Toilets can't be flushed. Garbage piling up in schools. Electricity woes. Schools still leaking. And then you go out there to boast about what we are doing and what we are not doing. I'm not sure how many persons were able to watch the interview with a little child from West Rumvelt Primary School. He was on Simona Brooms' program, and he was talking about the conditions at his school. And this is, I think he's a grade 5 pupil. He was talking about the walls at his school, that the boys have to use the girls' toilet, and they don't have water in the toilets. And let me bring it home. Outside of education, we just saw the interview with the doctor from Timeri.
Yeah.
Remember that?
Yep.
And then we had the 5:30 meeting where the very Minister of Education could not answer for what was happening in our ministry. And she was there like a little girl twiddling her fingers. And the president was saying, and yes, you, Priya Manik-Chan, this is what you gave me, and you know that it is not right. And so here again, we're seeing the dishonesty in quite a lot of these officials who come out there and put on big fancy clothes, you know, and give big fancy speeches, and they behave as if they're doing well, when in actual fact, they're doing absolutely nothing but filling the pockets of themselves, their friends, and their families.
MP, yeah, we spoke a lot about, and I feel this is one of the pressing issues today in the education sector, maths and English, and the challenges surrounding the performance of students in maths and English in Guyana. And it can be attributed to many factors. While specific causes of this failure may vary by region, by school, by demographic, and stuff like that, how is this budget, this 1.3 trillion budget, being used to improve the lives of teachers, to improve the quality of education that they put out, especially in those underserved areas? Because we know of all those infrastructural development that is happening, but are those infrastructural development happening in underserved areas, and also are those underserved areas with teachers being educated more so that they can be up to the standard that we have in regions like Region 4?
Well, let me say to you, in the $1.1 trillion budget, we couldn't solve the issue. So I don't see how the $1.3 trillion budget will solve the issue. Again, in education, the focus is completely out of tune with what is happening. You mentioned Region 4. Let's talk about Region 4. St. Mary's Primary on the east bank of Demerara. That school was built a long, long time ago. And then we had an addition placed there. That school is supposed to accommodate 300 learners. Its population right now is 600.
Wow.
340, then its population is 600 plus. That school has been declared a fire hazard because of faulty electrical work. And you know what they do? They have an old building, and then they put on an extension. And with the extension, the old building caters for, and I'm going to use wild numbers. Let's say the old building will cater for 10 points, 15 lights, and those 10 points are supposed to accommodate a refrigerator, maybe a computer system, a computer with all its amenities, maybe 10 fans or something like that. Now you put on an extension, and all you do is join the wires from the old building and you spread them out on the new structure. You understand what is happening there? The system is
overloading the circuit. Yeah.
Overloading the system. But they don't see that. And you know why that is happening? Because when you receive a contract of, let's say, $10 to do work, $5 has got to be divided between the people who ensure that you got the contract and everybody else. So the other $5 is what you have to use to do the work. So you understand why we get substandard work? So again, to St. Mary's Primary. St. Mary's Primary has been declared a fire hazard because of faulty electrical work. Toilet facilities, deplorable conditions. You have there 28 washrooms for 2 washrooms for 28 teachers. You understand what we have happening there? So one of the washroom is for the male teacher and the other washroom is for the female teachers. So you notice that's the part that we're seeing there with the concrete part. That's the new structure that they've put on there. But we don't have proper system in that school. We got issues with lighting, and these issues have been reported to the department over and over and over again, and absolutely nothing is being done. Maybe we want that to be another Madia. East Drumveld Secondary School. The minister boasts that when they took over, there was 1 building, and now you have 5 buildings there. But yes, you got 5 buildings, and you got lots of flaws on the new building. Poor quality furniture. And this is not me saying so. This is what the teachers have reported. Cheap doors, that the doors are breaking away. Poor internet. Classrooms are flooded when it rains heavily. No AC units in the teacher's staff room. The one in the IT room, it's not working. Mosquito and flies have infested that school. And there is no running water. So when we talk about, how much infrastructure we put up, it's a waste of time. We have a building there, concentrate on the building, rehabilitate that building and make it a state-of-the-art building, and then we can look at doing new additions. But what they jump to do, put up new structures, and then the entire complex is in shambles. And these are just 2 schools I'm telling you about. I spoke about West Drumveld Primary. If we were to go across to what happens at Dolphin Secondary and BV Kwamina Primary, and I'm sure you know the woes that the teachers are enduring there with pigeons again.
Same pigeon.
BV
and that was
same thing.
And MP, I want to say this, that the teachers have complained, reached out to the ministry since 2020 about this pigeon, 2021 about this pigeon issue. So I don't understand if she can't deal with a pigeon issue since then, how she's going to deal with a pigeon issue now.
Right. The other thing is we've had security issues in schools in Georgetown. At least 4 of our schools in Georgetown, they've been theft. Televisions have disappeared. Computer systems have disappeared. Lots of office stuff would have disappeared. Schools right in Georgetown. And the ministry continue to pay security firms for providing poor services to us. And when you ask about these security firms, then you get little or no proper answer coming from the Minister of Education or anywhere else you go, because they are content with having poor security service, because that's where they get the drawbacks. Now, you cannot invest in schools by doling out huge sums of monies in the forms of televisions and computers and fans and AC units, and then a couple morning after, these items disappear and there is no trace of where they go, and the security firm can't answer you. But you know what? I'm not going to blame the security firm. I blame the persons who are employing the security firm. Because if you employ a security firm and you get complaints all the time from the teachers that the security company, rather than having 2 security guards, they're having 1 guard, rather than having 2 security guards. 1 guard. At nights, sometimes the guard is there for about 3 hours, and then the guard is taken off site and goes somewhere else. What are you supposed to be doing? Aren't you supposed to be getting to the bottom of this and removing that security firm? Because once you pay, you're supposed to have value for money. But that is not important for the Ministry of Education, simply because from the top to the bottom, in the senior management sector, everybody getting a drawback. So that is not important to them. And those are some of the factors that will affect learning. Learning is also affected when we have textbooks being printed with incorrect information and not and the printing is not legible. That will affect learning. Learning is also affected when the schools themselves are not properly constructed so that learning can be conducive. I mentioned furniture. When the children can't sit properly, when they can't sit comfortable, that too will affect learning. When we have too many large classes, that will affect learning. And those are the issues that I would expect the Ministry of Education to focus on. But you know what? They're not focusing on that. They're focusing on what they just had the induction for, school inspectors. Mind you, we have an entire inspectorate unit that operates out of the Ministry of Education. But now we want to give monies to our friends and families and for ourselves. So we have now school inspectors, a whole induction ceremony for school inspectors. I'm not sure if the work that these school inspectors is going to be doing is different from the work that the inspectorate unit is going to be doing. And mind you, many of the persons who have been inducted as school inspectors are also heads of schools. So I don't know how you expect schools to be properly manned when you're taking the head teachers and the deputies from some of these schools and making them school inspectors, regional inspectors. I don't know how you expect. And that's where we have the learning curve dropping. If you don't have the head teacher in school to assist with the manning of the school and to ensure that everything happens right at the school, then what you expect to happen? There's an old saying that says, when the cat's away, the mice will play. So if you're taking out all of these people and finding other jobs for them to do, then we will have the confusion. And let me bring it home. Under the coalition government, when you had Dr. Nicolette Henry there as the Minister of Education, of course, we had Dr. Rupert Roopnarine first, and then you had Dr. Nicolette Henry coming on board. We saw them going out there and doing an entire survey to find out why are we having these poor performance in math and English. And you know what? When the findings were completed, they had a new process that they instituted. The chief education officer then was Dr. Marcel Hudson.
Marcel Hudson,
You had Marcel Hudson, Olata for a little while, and then Hudson for the major part of it. And they went out there and they had math initiative going on with the teachers as well as with the learners. And boom, what we had happening the next year, our pass percentages in math and English went way up, double what we were having.
And don't forget STEM, because that was a very, very important program.
Exactly. And so what are we having now? But the PPP's thing is they are always there to rewrite history, to throw in the corner what has been done and was productive and was effective. But because it was not done by them, they throw it in a corner and they institute other things. We've seen what, like the community high schools, like I spoke about earlier. They do away with the community high schools because you know what? It reminds them of Burnham. They have done away with what we used to have in school, and I'm not sure, Onyx, if you're old enough to know this. But when I was going to school, I remember we had the national songs that we used to sing. They did away with that. They did away with that. But you know what? When Maduro started with his craziness, then they started resurrecting national songs and we playing the national song. Now, all of these things reminds them of Burnham. And they don't want to be reminded of Burnham and the success that Burnham had in the education sector in our country. So they try to rewrite history and to bring on all kinds of foolishness, which simply isn't going to work, and it's not working.
Coretta, what is your thoughts, as we're about to wrap up, what is your thoughts now on the functioning of the PTA body? Because the PTA body is a watchdog in all the schools that, to my
community
mind,
engagement.
You know, to put the school in order and to get things done in the administrative form of the school and fundraising and all those kind of stuff. What is the GPA's position on the functioning of PTAs across the school spectrum? Is it effective? Does it need more work? Does it need more updating, modernizing? What are your thoughts on it?
All right. Before I go to the PTA, let me say this. In education cannot be effective as a one-man army. For education to be effective, we must have stakeholders. And our stakeholders in education must be, one, the teacher's representative, and two, the community.
Exactly.
And in the community, we have, evolving out of the community is the Parent Teachers Association. Now, these three entities are supposed to be working hand in hand. The PTA is the community watchdog, quote unquote, no disrespect, is the community, or let me say the community eye, that will be manning what happens in this school every day and during the weekends. But what we find happening, in some areas, you have vibrant PTAs. In other areas, you don't have, in some instances, no PTA whatsoever, and in some instances, the PTA is not effective. Rather than the Ministry of Education going out there and making sure that we have these walkabouts in our community to talk to our parents and to remind them that in order for our schools to be effective, you have to be a part of it. We want you to come out. We want you to do stuff. No, they don't do that. What they go out there is to preach a whole lot of politics. Now, education and politics, they can't marry. Education is a straight policy, is a straight sector that deals with the development of minds and molding them to become productive citizens. So you can't teach politics and expect that children will learn that and they will write that in the exams. So what we're supposed to be having is effective communication between these three entities. It doesn't happen because, like I said, because of politics. Now, before the PPP took office in 2020, if you look around, you would have seen we had very, very vibrant PTAs working in our schools. PTAs were there. I remember there was an instance where there was a break-in in a school, and the people in the community were the ones who apprehended the thieves, and they were able to recover the stolen items. Now, in this day and age where the PPP has sought to pauperize ordinary citizens and where they have made life difficult for citizens, persons now have to contend with, look, I got to stay in here and mind my own business, because they have recognized that they're not even safe with the police. Because when you go out there and you give information to the police about issues and about persons who are persons who are committing acts, the police give the information to the people. So citizens are no longer safe even with the police. And so persons across the communities have decided, look, I just stay in and mind my business.
Yep.
You will stay in and mind your business. And so we have to now be able to revamp that kind of confidence in our people. We have to be able to revamp not only in the people in the community, but with the police, the service that the police is offering. And if the police force has been politicized and weaponized by the politicians, then what you expect to have happen? Everything, all of our standards will fall, because the police are more corrupt than anybody else. And this is not all of them. We know the ones who are corrupt in the system. The police are taking political instructions. The police are operating, they seek to victimize and to weaponize and to intimidate persons who want to speak out against wrongdoings. And so these are all factors that have influenced the functioning of some of our PTAs across this country. I am hoping that the Ministry of Education will go out there and seek to revamp the PTAs. Secondly, for PTAs that are functioning, when you have to highlight the deficiencies within our school system, they see you as attacking the government. They don't see them as being constructive criticisms. They see the PTA as being aggressive and an adversary to the government. And so what they seek to do is to shut you out. I can tell you that I can say this because I know in areas where you have persons who are seen all over with the PNC or the AFC, as long as you're sitting on a PTA and you hold a certain position on the PTA exec, they brand the PTA one time as being an opposition PTA, so they don't have time with you. Now, these are the issues that will affect the effective functioning of our schools. But PTA, I must say, is an important arm of the functioning or for the effective functioning of any school. I think you remember hearing, we're coming off of the PTA. Like I said, the PTA is an important arm in any school. Anything that you want to do, you must have on board the parents with you, because these are the persons who will ensure that their children do what is expected of them, that their children walk a certain road so that they can be able to work effectively with their teachers, and the skills and the learning attributes that the teachers are going to propagate out there, that they are received and learning is taking place. But if we were to look at the failures that we're having, I hear the minister talk about strike. Oh, there was strike by the teachers, and that's what caused our CXC results to go out. The Minister of Education forgot that in 2018, she was promoting and supporting the strike in 2018. But you know what? That did not prevent our learners from achieving the high grades that they achieve, especially in math and English, the percentage increase in math and English. But in 2024 and in 2023, when the teachers took industrial action, that is being blamed for the low performance in our percentage. Absolute nonsense. What the minister must seek to do is to do what the coalition did. When the teachers took strike action in 2018, very quickly the coalition government recognized that we have to look at the teachers. We have to take care of their needs. And so there was a 5 days strike. The 5 of the days from the 9, 5 was before the reopening of school, and 4 was during the reopening of the new school year. And you know what the coalition did? They quickly met with the union and started talking with the union. And coming out of that, teachers got as much as 12% salary increases tax-free. Let me repeat that. Teachers got as much as 12% salary increases tax-free. After 75 days of industrial action in 2024, the teachers got a meager 10% that was taxed. And it took 75 days. Now, the Minister of Education, again, she forgot that in 2018, she was promoting and supporting the teachers' action. And she was one who was saying that teachers must be taken care of. Teachers must be paid a livable salary. The government need to look at what is happening with the teachers. Barrett Jaggio was on several of its press conferences, lambasting the coalition government and even recommending that they should cut on their travel, they should cut on their dietary and pay the teachers. But now in 2024, when the teachers took action, the very Barrett Jaggio was condemning the teachers. The very Priya Manichan was condemning the teachers, and they went out as far as to say that the teachers' salaries are going to be cut. And they started victimizing the teachers. As a matter of fact, they went as far as to stop the deductions that they would normally do for the teachers' union and to remit the dues to the union. And so this is the PPP, a bunch of hooligans, a bunch of dictators, and a bunch of people who feel that they can instill fear in the ordinary Guyanese to run away with all that they want to run away with. So this $1.3 trillion budget, of course, we know quite a lot of the monies will go into this slush fund to promote their elections campaign. If you look at some of the monies, where some of the monies are going, it's clear. Slush fund to promote their elections campaign, where they will distribute monies Wild West, thinking that they can buy voters for election. That's what the 2025 $1.3 trillion budget is about.
Lastly, Coretta, what is the update on that court case? I know you won the case in the court, but I think the government might have appealing it. What is the update on that matter?
Well, let me say, any government who would go out there to victimize and to punish their citizens is no proper government. Yeah. And we saw the same thing happening with the nurses in Linden, when they were told that they're not supposed to, when the nurses won the case where they deducted monies from the nurses' salaries, that was appealed. They Quindon Bacchus's sum, the $24 million, that was appealed until Irfan Ali decided, look, stop that appeal, squash it. The teachers' issue, the first part of the case was a victory for teachers and was a victory for labor, where the judge said, the teachers came out asking you for bread and you gave them stones. This agreement was an agreement. It was a manly agreement, a partnership agreement, whatever you want to term it. It was an agreement between the Ministry of Education and the union for you to deduct the dues and to remit it. If you wanted to stop the dues, then you needed to give the teachers union enough notice so that they can put systems in place. That was not done, and so the judge ruled that the dues must continue to be deducted and remitted to the union. Up to the time of us speaking here, the government has not done that. What they did is they went to the appeals court. There again, Anil Nandalal lost the case. And you know Anil Nandalal, every time he loses a case, then he would go out there to cut out the judges in the most derogatory form. So he went out there and he did that same thing to the judge there again in the appeals court. And so I think they're going somewhere else to go to the full bench. I think they want to go to the full bench now. But in between all of that, they were supposed to start deducting and remitting the dues to the union. And they have not done that. And this is the government that always talk about, and they go everywhere and they talk about democracy and transparency and integrity and democracy and transparency. But where is it? Where is it practiced? Nowhere across this country. You don't hear about the democracy that they preach about. They preach, but they don't practice what they preach. And so that's where we are with this whole issue with the court matter. Our attorney, they are in the process of filing some other matters pertaining to the Jews and the remittance of the Jews, and that's where we are. But you see, this government, again, let me say, this government, their intention is to cripple any organization that stand up to them. Any person, any one person, we've seen this happening with the likes of Terence Campbell and Nigel Hughes and everybody else. As long as you stand up to them, they're ready to cripple you. We saw this happening with other activists. We see them every day attacking Melly Mel, attacking Rickford Burke. We saw them going to the extreme where they executed Ronald Waddell.
Yeah.
We're seeing it now with the Mohammeds.
Saw as well.
We saw Satadio Saw. We've seen so many persons, Courtney Crummy Wing. And so this is what this government is all about. Every time you have to stand up to speak about them, they find the most devious ways to get to you. And I must remind our viewers, this government, when they were in opposition, they did the most. You remember when they were in parliament, when the president went there to address parliament, how they drowned him out. We saw all the placards that they had there. But now,
against the government for teachers,
this time around, the speaker doesn't allow the opposition to do a couple of things in parliament. We saw this very government when they were in opposition, when they attempted to overturn Minister then Karen Cummins' vehicle. You remember that?
Oh, yeah.
You remember when President David Granger was at the Pegasus Hotel when
they protested him? Yes.
When they protested him there. And so this is what this government is all about. This is a government who feel that they can always bully people and get away with it, but they don't want you to stand up and speak out against their foolishness that they do. This is a government that is concerned about themselves, their families, their friends, and their favorites. And ordinary Guyanese don't mean anything to them. We heard the newest of parliamentarian coming to parliament and lying in the parliament about his father being dismissed by the coalition government when they disbanded the sugar estates. And then we saw the facts coming out that his father retired long before then. We saw Minister Dio, that same Indar, talking about the struggles of his mother during the PNC time and how his mother had to be washing clothes. And then, Bob, what did we see? A young man there doing a video saying, Indar, your mother lived her best life under the PNC. Because the man who she was married to before, Mr. Prasad, he was a policeman, and he named a couple of other policemen who he worked with. They were stationed at Lenora, that his mother lived her best life. But this is what they seek to do all the time, to demoralize people, to make themselves look good, when we know for a fact that they are the ones who are demonic, they are wicked, they are vindictive, and they mean no good for the Guyanese people.
As we go out, Coretta, this morning, on a good note, the GTUs having their elections, and the moles will be gone, so to speak.
Well, this is a new name. This is a new term I'm hearing now, the moles, because I know there's a term that is circulating, and that term came from the president of the GTU, who's on suspension, Mark Light, who said that there are elements in GTU who are political, and there are elements, and I heard the CEO last week repeating the same thing, that there are elements in the GTU who doesn't want to have Mark Light there. Well, let me say, whether elements are mold, our teachers are intelligent and they have a mind of their own. And the very same GTU's General Council that Mark Light used on the 9th of August to make a declaration is the very General Council that made a declaration on the 17th of December, which saw him and the second vice president, Julian Cambridge, being suspended, which they can't deal with at this time. But let me say, yes, the GTU's nominations were had in October, and there are several persons who have been nominated to vie for various positions. And of course, I want to say Coretta McDonald has been nominated
for president as well.
Coretta McDonald has been nominated for president as well as general secretary. And our teachers know that GTU has to move to another level. GTU will rise, and those who sought to bring the name of the GTU into disrepute, the GTU's constitution has provisions to deal with those persons, and teachers will deal with them accordingly.
Coretta McDonald, thank you so much for the program this morning. It has been a pleasure. We've gotten a lot of news from your presentation this morning to us, and we know that you will continue to fight for the teachers' rights, teachers' entitlement, luncheon, overtime pay, everything that you need to get, land, whatever, duty-free allowance, all of that, all those rights that belongs to teachers. I know that you will ensure that happen. Even if you become the president or re-elected as general secretary, you will ensure that fight continues. And so,
thank you for having me on the program. But I can tell you, you just raised an answer, because when you talk about land and housing and so on, that's a whole different story. We got to talk about that again, because we have teachers who would have applied for house lots since when they can't get. So that's a different story. But I can tell you, our teachers know exactly what to do and when to do it. And I must say, I must thank our teachers across this country who have been nominating me. I've been general secretary since 2006, and you can count those years. And there must have been something good that I've been doing for our teachers, regardless of race, color, creed, and political affiliation, that our teachers continue to nominate me, even when I've had other competitors running alongside me. Our teachers continue to nominate me. So it has nothing to do with Coretta McDonald and politics, but it has to do with Coretta McDonald being a teacher. According to Priya Manikchan, I'm not a qualified teacher and so on. I don't know, but according to the teachers of this country, I have been advocating for their rights, and they will do what they have to do when it comes to Coretta McDonald. And of course, I must say, Coretta McDonald, anybody you see the PPP attacking, you must recognize and you must know that that person is a threat to them. They wouldn't go after anybody who's not a threat to them. And so they've been coming after Coretta McDonald, and Coretta McDonald as General Secretary and as a Member of Parliament. But right in the Parliament, we have Sipol Narayan, who's the President of GAO, and there is no issue with him. And that's to show you how devious the PPP are, and they don't see things as being transparent as long as you have somebody who can advocate against them. But I want to let them know I advocated in 2018 against the coalition government. As long as they don't do right, I will advocate against them, and I will muster the teachers to advocate and strike against them. So if you want the teachers not to strike, then do right. If you don't do right by the teachers, we will mobilize in our numbers. But again, thank you for having me, and I want to allow me to use your program to extend condolences on behalf of the teachers of Guyana to the teacher we lost just this morning as a result of a fire way down in Parikadera Bushi Park. And then we lost Sir Keith Bino, who served as a general council rep, as a teacher who lived on the west coast of Berbice. Condolences to their families, and to let you know that our hearts are with you and our prayers are with you.
Thank you so much, Coretta McDonald. And a note to end on this morning. Coretta McDonald, the fighter, the mobilizer, the revolutionist in the Teachers Union. Thank you so much for being in the program.
Presidential nominee for the Teachers Union as well.
And the presidential nominee, candidate for the TTU. Thank you, Coretta. It's a pleasure having you this morning. We'll see you back here next time.
Happy Sunday to you. Bye-bye.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, ma'am. We end on a great note this morning. Talent great, but Coretta McDonald will continue to do a great job in the teaching profession. Coming up also, just moments ago, we were talking about
breaking news. Breaking news.
Will be on the Nation Watch program this morning, and he will continue with the host Marvin Williams on what is going on in the country. We also have breaking news. We also have breaking news. You have it there.
The home of convicted Guyanese fraudster Ed Ahmad in Queens, New York, on Saturday has been robbed by FBI.
Wow. And that is on 8:59 News page. Travis Stacey, you get it there right now.
Yeah. Kudos to Nigel Hughes on that development and all that is happening in America.
Yeah. They tried to deflect and to bring up Nigel Hughes' land and how he acquired his land, and it's in the Kaicho.
Jungle lands, the prime lands. Just remember.
Yeah, he didn't have it wasn't a legal land he purchased and a whole lot of stupidness. I don't know what more to convince these people we have to do. Oh, there's only one way to convince them. Out. That's it.
Get them out of there.
Yeah, that's it.
That is our edition of the countdown, Andrew.
And see you back here next Sunday for another edition.
Have a great day.
Of the countdown. Goodbye.